Now let's see how we can create rounded borders on any of the element that we have in HTML. So for this example, I have index.html with a div with a class of box. And in our style.css, I have certain margins, width, height, background color, and border for this particular box that you see over here. Now, if I want to curve the borders of this particular element, I can simply use the property called border-radius and then provide a value. So let's say I provide a value, let's say 30 pixels over here, right? Save, refresh, and you see there's rounded corners on all sides. Now let's take a look on what is happening in the background so you can actually make custom shapes from it as well. So if I'm on the Mozilla documentation for border radius, you can actually have custom shapes created just by this property. But to make that, you have to understand what's happening in the background first. So I have this graphic over here for you. So the way the border property works is when you provide this particular value over here, let's say 30 pixels, it takes 30 pixels from one particular side horizontally, and then it takes 30 pixels from vertical side, and then it curves this particular section from here to here. So it does the same thing on all sides. So it curves this, curves this, curves this, curves this, all the four corners, and you get this particular shape. Now let's say if you say, hey, I don't want 30 pixels on this side, I want maybe a different side on the right hand side, and the bottom should be different. So you can actually provide four values, just the way with the padding property, just the way with the margin property, you can provide four values. You can actually provide four values, and it works the same way in the clockwise manner. So the first property is the top left side, then the top right, then the bottom right, and then the bottom left. So if I want different border radiuses, I can simply come over here and say, let's say 100 pixels, and then let's say 20 pixels, and then let's say 50 pixels. So it should be 30, 100, 20, and then 50. All right, so I'm going to save, refresh, and you see you get this custom shape, right? So now with using these particular values, we can actually create a circle from it as well. So let's say we have percentages, right? So how does a percentage work? So let's say if you want to make this into a circle, what would you do? You would actually provide a property called 50%. And the way it would work is, actually I'm just gonna save this and just show you over here. So it's gonna take 50% of the horizontal area, so that means over here. So it's gonna make a line from here to here, and then 50% vertically from here to here, 50% of the box. So it's gonna curve all the way from here to here. So it's gonna be like halfway. And it's gonna do this on all four sides. So it's gonna be a circle, right? So let's take a look. I'm gonna refresh, and you see it's a circle because it took 50%, curved it, curved it, curved it, curved it. All right. So that's how a circle is made. But for to be it a circle, the width and height of the box should be the same. So let's say if this was wider, let's say this was 500 pixels, it would be an oval. All right, here you have it. Now, one last thing I want to share you about is actually there's another value that you can provide within the border radius property, which is a slash sign over here. Now, the slash sign is actually not a division sign. It's actually a separator to provide horizontal values versus vertical values. So let me explain. So just right now, I'm just going to click over here, and you see it's a weird shape. The reason for that is that the curves are not equal. This over here on the horizontal side, it's a very minor curve, and the vertical side, it's a pretty big curve. All right, it's happening on different sides. If I take a look over here, you see, this is totally weird. This is equal, looks like equal. This is pretty weird. It's a weird unequal curve. It's not equal on both sides, meaning on the horizontal and the vertical side. So this is how it works actually. There's a very good documentation over here on Stack Overflow. And the way it explains it is actually that when you provide the slash sign, the first values are the horizontal values, and the second set of values after the slash sign are actually the vertical values. So let's take a look over here in our example. So for here, let's say if I want to provide, you already saw that there's horizontal value and vertical value, right? And 30 pixel, 30 pixel. So let's say if you don't want this to be equal, what you would do is actually provide, let's say, I'm going to say 30 pixels, save, refresh, and it's all equal, right? In this example, I'm going to make this small again and make this into 300. But now if I provide 30 pixels and then slash, and then I say, let's say 50 pixels, all right? What's going to happen? What do you think in our example is going to happen? What is going to happen is actually, from our example, it's going to take 30 from this side and then 50 from this side. So it's going to be longer on the vertical side. So vertical curve is going to be bigger and the horizontal curve is going to be smaller, 30 versus 50, all right? So let's take a look, refresh, and you see, yes, you see this curve is 30 pixels and this is 50. So that's why we get this unique shape. And then again, if you want to provide different values for all sides, you would provide all the horizontal values over here and then all the vertical values over here. So horizontal, let's say 30 pixels, and let's say if I want over here 10, and then over here on the bottom I want, let's say 100, and then on the last side, let's say I want, let's say 20 again, 20 pixels. So now what should happen? I'm not going to refresh, just tell me what's going to happen. What's going to happen is that the horizontal side is going to be, let's say 30, 10, 100, and then what was it, 20? That's going to be the horizontal. But for the vertical, since we only provided one value, it's going to be 50 on all sides. All right. So refresh and you see, yes, that's what the shape looks like. But if you want custom values on the vertical side as well, you can say 50, 20, 10, and whatever, 100 pixels. Oops, save, and it's going to be a totally different shape. So you're basically playing around with these numbers, so you actually make these weird looking shapes if you want, and you can create whatever you want from it. So that's pretty much it for this video. Play around with it, play around with this particular pretty good documentation over here as well, so you can create these weird little shapes. But one last thing, again, I want to share with you is that, let's say over here, if you only provide two values, so it's going to take the first value, the second value, and the bottom values are not there. So it's basically going to be the same thing as if you are replicating this like this. Oops, did not show up correctly. 50% and 20% like this. So it's just like if you just provide two values, it's like they're providing, it's going to copy this and just put it like this. So this is basically a short form. This and this is the same thing, and same goes over here. So it's going to be, so you see when I enter those values, nothing changes because it's exactly the same thing. That's why nothing changes. All right. So that's just a short form for it. And this is exactly the same thing we have learned with padding and margin. It's the same short forms. All right. That's pretty much it. Talk to you in the next video.